Afternoon. The August 18th Planning and Commission meeting of the City of Longview is now called to order. Today's meeting is being conducted by teleconference to abide by state and federal recommendations to limit in-person gatherings to help slow the spread of coronavirus. We thank you for your understanding. Due to the format of this meeting, we will begin today with a roll call to confirm that all the commissioners are present and participate in our consideration. So commissioners, when I call your name, would you please respond in the affirmative if you're present? Nancy Murray?
I'm here.
Tracy Vincent?
Here.
Tim Carpenter?
Here.
Brent Stevenson?
Here.
At noon?
Here.
Cody Sage? No response from Cody?
Cody does not appear to be online.
Thank you. Ryan Baumgartner?
Present.
Jason Jones? No response from Jason Jones?
Jason Jones is online, but he seems to have his mic muted at this time.
Okay, Jason. And I am Frankie Parson, as you know, and we'll also do a roll call of city staff. The city planner is Angela Choi. Here. And Director of Development Services, Michael Shirley.
Present.
Thank you. Jason, are you unmuted yet? Okay.
He still appears to be muted, but Cody Sage is online now.
Oh, all right. Cody, are you present? Cody Sage, are you present?
Looks
No
like
reply.
he might not have his audio turned on yet, but both Cody and Jason are at least on the system.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
All right, is this Cody?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Jason, are you on yet? All right. We'll go on to agenda item 3, which is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting in July. If I have no corrections to those minutes, I'll entertain a motion and a second to approve as presented.
This is Pat Nunn. I will make a motion to approve the July the 21st, 2020 minutes as presented.
Thank you, Pat. And the second?
Tracy Vincent, second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. We'll conduct the roll call vote. Nancy?
Aye.
Thank you. Tracy?
Approved.
Tim Carpenter?
Approved.
Brent?
Approved.
Pat Noon? You made the motion?
Aye.
Cody
Aye.
Sage? Ryan Baumgartner?
Approved.
Jason Jones? Still muted. Okay, and I approve, so staff will now confirm the record of the vote.
Yes, ma'am. Pat Noon made the motion. Tracy Vincent seconded the motion. The motion was to approve 8-0.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Our item is citizen comment, and those wishing to participate in citizen comment today are invited to access this meeting through a link to register with the teleconferencing application. This portion of citizen comments are the comments made other than the public hearing items that we have on the agenda. So if you want to speak on an item that's on the agenda, please wait until that time to speak. Richard Yakley is coordinating the technical side of the meeting and will assist with moderating the citizen comment portion of our meeting. Your call to speak, you will be unmuted and given one opportunity to speak. Please begin by stating your name and address for the public record. If you're also watching a live meeting through City View Municipal Television, please mute it first to avoid feedback. Richard, do we have any residents who want to speak today?
We do have several people that are logged on to be able to speak. Several, I believe, are here for particular items. But if you are here for not a particular item, if you would raise your hand using the raise your hand tool within the GoToWebinar app, go ahead and do that now. As I said, there are several people that have registered to participate in the meeting. I do not see anyone with their hand raised at this time. So just one last call. Don't see that as of now, but we do have several that would speak later on. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And now we'll move on to agenda item 5. This is our regular agenda. And the purpose of this meeting is to hear all pertinent testimony of those in support of and in opposition to the applications before the commission. Tonight is the first of 2 public hearings required to approve the change in zoning, and also consider class. The procedure for public hearing items to be followed tonight or today will be the public hearing will be opened and testimony will be heard in the following order. First from staff, then applicants, and then from the general public. And that general public those in opposition. If you're part of a large group, I would ask that you appoint a spokesperson rather than have each individual restate the same information. And when you address the commission, please begin by stating your name and address, and try to limit your comments to 5 minutes. When all sides have spoken, the public hearing on the matter will be closed and no further public discussion will be entertained. After each public hearing is closed, the commission will vote on the request. Zoning requests and the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendations will go forward to the second public hearing, which will be conducted by the City Council on September 17. We'll move first to regular agenda item A, and Angela will give us the overview.
Thank you. This is a public hearing will be held to consider application C20-07 filed by BTO Properties LLC requesting a rezone from agriculture to single family 4 zoning district for approximately 5.96 acres of abstract 177 WM Robinson Survey Tract 31 Section 1 located at 5720 Yarborough Road.
Thank you, Angela. Will you make the staff presentation also?
Yes, ma'am. The applicant is requesting a rezone for this tract of land located here at 5720 Yarborough Road from agriculture to single family 4. The subject property was annexed in 1980. When annexation occurs, the property is automatically assigned an agricultural zoning designation. As development occurs, land that is zoned ag will need to be rezoned because for future growth. Yarborough Road and Harley Ridge Road are both classified as local roadways and are maintained by the City of Longview. Residential uses are appropriate along both roadways. Staff does find that the proposed zoning change is consistent with the future land use map and surrounding uses. Staff recommends approval of this request. I would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions of staff? Hearing none, we'll ask for the applicant. Does the applicant have anything to add, or would they like to? Yes.
I do. This is Tracy. I do have one question. The roads are belong to the city of Longview because it's annexed. Is that correct?
That is correct. These are City of Longview roads, and they're maintained by the City of Longview.
When I went over and looked at that, I bumped into a citizen there, and he said something about the roads being in pretty tough shape. Will there be any enhancements to the road, even though they're building a subdivision in here?
There will not be, but we can talk to our public works staff and ask that they go out there and evaluate the site.
I would appreciate it. I just told them I'd pass that on and ask the question when it came up. But thank you. That's the only question I had right now.
Thank you. Is the applicant with us, and would they like to add or speak to this request?
The applicant is online. He has been unmuted, but he's currently self-muted. So Mr. Oram, if you'd like to speak, you'll have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yeah, I am here. I think Miss Angela's already covered all the points, all the high points for that property. Basically, just want to bring out some new construction homes over to the west side of Longview, and that's really it. Miss Angela kind of covered every other point that I can think of.
Okay, Mr. Owens, I have a couple of questions. Are you going to be selling the lots or are you going to be building out those lots?
I will
So
be
is it
building. I'll be building on the lots.
Okay. You have a high percentage of mature trees. It's a very beautiful wooded area, so I hope there is plan to preserve some of those mature trees if possible. But it is a gorgeous.
Yes, ma'am. As many trees. Yes, ma'am. As many trees as possible that we can save, then we're going to do that.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate your comment. Any questions from the commissioners of the applicant? Okay, hearing none, we'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak in support of this request?
If you would like to speak, please raise your hand using the GoToWebinar tool. I do not see any hands raised at this time. Again, if you plan to speak on the item, please raise your hand at this time. There being none, you can move forward.
Okay, and there was no opposition, correct? No one in support of, or no one in opposition? If
It
there are no
appears that-
additional, okay, thank you. If there are no additional questions or comments, we'll close the public hearing and we'll now entertain a motion.
Tim Carpenter, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Calling for a second.
Jason Jones.
Correct.
I'm sorry, say that again?
It was Jason Jones. I'll second it.
Thank you, Jason. We have a first and a second. We'll now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray? Nancy? I need an A or an A.
I approve.
Thank you. Tracy Vincent?
Approve.
Tim Carpenter, yes, since you made the
Approve.
motion. Brent Stevenson?
Approved.
Thank you, Brent. Pat Moon?
Yes.
Cody Sage?
Approved.
Brian Brumgardner?
Approved.
And Jay seconded, and I approve. Will the staff now confirm the record of the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Tim Carpenter made the motion. Jason Jones seconded the motion. The vote was unanimous to approve, 9-0.
Thank you.
Oh, Andy, I got a question right fast. And on the top of the application, it has the Z2020-7280, but on the front page, it has a different number. Do we need to correct that?
No, it was just a staff report.
Okay, good
It was
deal.
a permit number, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now on to regular agenda item B. The public, excuse me, Angela, would you give us an overview?
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing will be held to consider application S20-02 filed by Jo Lynn Crane requesting a specific use permit to allow for a restaurant with a drive-through window in general retail zoning district for Lot 2, Block 1, Chaparral Plaza located at 118 Johnston Street.
Thank you. And would you give us the staff presentation, please?
Yes, ma'am. The applicant is requesting a specific use permit in general retail zoning district for a drive-through window. A specific use permit is required for drive-through windows within general retail zoning district to ensure no negative impact on surrounding properties. The business, which is Brian and Scott, sells snowballs, and those items will be sold through the proposed drive-through window. Currently, the business is located on the lot directly east of this property. They are proposing to build a new building to the west of their current site and will have 2 drive-through windows like their current facility. Johnston Street is a City of Longview roadway and is classified as a collector. Retail uses are appropriate for this area as long as access management is followed. Staff funds for the proposed zoning change is consistent with the future lane use map and surrounding uses. Staff recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no questions of Angela, we'll ask for the applicant if they have anything to add or would like to speak on the request. Is the applicant present?
Yes, ma'am. This is Kyle Stevens, Stevens Engineering. I'm representing the applicant.
Thank you. You want to tell us about your project?
Yes, ma'am. Much like the last case, Angela covered most everything. The applicant is relocating her business from 2 lots over to the tract that currently is Cook's Lighting and Flooring. There will be 2 drive-thrus. She's needing expanded space. The space that she's in now, it no longer is viable for her business model, so she's needing additional space. So.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant? I have a couple. How much square footage is it going to increase her new space, with her new space?
I believe approximately 50% more. The new space is going to be about 470 square feet. She's significantly smaller than that. As it stands right now, she has no merchandising space. She really has no room to have multiple ice machines or anything like that. So this space will allow her to bring everything into one facility, everything behind locked door, and give her some space to grow.
Okay. What will happen to the existing building?
That is a lease space. The owner of that property, of that lot, owns that outbuilding. So once she vacates that building, she won't have any involvement in that building anymore.
Okay. There's a considerable number of curb cuts that will need to be done to gain access, I would think, but I don't know. I only saw one direct entry exit point. So can you kind of tell us how that's going to work?
There are no additional curb cuts from what there is right now. All of the existing driveways that will enter into what's considered the Chaparral or Chaparral Plaza, those will remain. This proposed facility will take in several of the out parking spaces that are on the Cook Lighting property now. It is parking that is in excess of what's required now per the zoning ordinance. So no, there won't be any modifications to the existing curb cuts on the Johnston Street.
Mr. Stevens,
Okay.
what about that triangular sign?
As of right now, that's to remain.
There's a pylon sign, the triangle sign, and a multitude of others. And I just was wondering how that was going to work, but I'm sure you worked it out with the city and you'll have good ingress and egress. And I'm assuming also that the Cook's Lighting will maintain their parking ratio as required by the city, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Per the site plan we've submitted to the city, we are compliant with parking requirements.
Okay. Are there any further questions of the commissioners, of staff, or the applicant?
The utilities are all in place?
There at the site, we will have to run sewer and water in from the right-of-way of Johnston to the site. So the parking will be repaired once that's done. And then the area immediately surrounding the proposed building will be repaved.
Good.
Cool.
All right.
Hey, Kyle, what's the setback going off of Johnson Street to where the building's going to be? I can't quite make it out on my paper here.
Angela, can you kind of move your cursor back and forth and show that setback line? The required or the setback per that zoning is a 25-foot setback. The building itself, I don't have it in front of me, but it's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60, 65 feet from the property line to the front face of the building. So it's significantly behind the setback line.
Okay, so safety's not going to be an issue from people walking over to the park, over to the west of it. It should have plenty of room for everybody to go up and down. Good deal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? I will now open the public hearing. And is there anyone that would like to speak in support of this request? If so, please state your name and address.
As of now, no one has their hand raised to speak about the item. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. There being none.
All right, and there's no one that wants to speak in opposition to the request item. That's a question.
If you would, please raise your hand. Again, there are none.
Thank you. If there are no additional comments or questions, we will close the public hearing. And I will take a motion. Please make a motion
This
stating
is
your name.
Nancy. This is Nancy. I make a motion that we approve this application.
This Tracy Benson. Oh, go ahead, Nancy.
We have
This
a
is
motion and a
Nancy.
second.
Yes.
Nancy has made the motion, and Tracy, am I correct that you made the second? Who made the second?
Yeah, I'll make the second. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Thank you. A motion has been made, and there is a second. We'll now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy, since you made the motion, we'll say yes. Tracy?
Yes.
Approved.
Tim?
Approved.
Carpenter?
Approved.
Brent Stevenson?
Approved.
Thank you. Pat Noon?
Approved.
Cody Sage?
Approved.
Thank you. Ryan Baumgartner?
Approved.
Jason Jones?
Approved.
Not. Oh, he is with us. Okay, good. And I approve. Staff, will you confirm the record of the vote?
Nancy Murray made the motion. Tracy Vincent seconded the motion. The vote was unanimous to approve 9-0.
Thank you. All right, we now go to regular agenda item C, and Angela will give us the overview.
Thank you. This is a public hearing will be held to consider application S20-03 filed by Rich Seymour, requesting a specific use permit to allow for a restaurant with a drive-through window in general retail zoning district for approximately 3.515 acres of abstract 129 H McNutt Survey Tract 21, located at 1301 Judson Road. And then I will go on to my presentation. The applicant is requesting a specific use permit for a restaurant with a drive-through window in general retail zoning district. The current business sells food and smoothies, and those items will be sold through the proposed drive-through window. Judson Road is a tech stop roadway and a principal arterial. Retail uses are appropriate along this thoroughfare as long as access management is followed. Staff finds that the proposed zoning change is consistent with the future land use map and surrounding uses. Staff recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay,
Thank you, Angela.
Angela, where's the window?
It is going to be on this side right here.
On which side?
The side on the screen right here. So it's going to be on the side facing Judson Road. I don't know if you...
I see it. It's in there. I see it.
Yes, sir. It's right by that truck.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, is the applicant with us, and would they like to add or speak to this request?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, just we're super excited to get this drive-through window in. I think it will help the business out and make it easy for customers to pick up to-go meals, prep meals, shakes, especially if COVID ever comes back. The drive-through window will help us out a lot.
Would
don't
you
have
tell
anything
me your
else.
name?
Rich
Would you
Seymour.
repeat your name? Okay, thank you. All right, does anyone have any questions of Mr. Seymour? Or of the staff? Hearing none, we'll now open the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak in support or in opposition to this request is asked to speak now.
No one has raised their hand to speak. Again, if you would like to speak, please do raise your hand. There are none.
Thank you. Having none, we will then close the public hearing and I will entertain a motion.
This is Jason. I'll make a motion to approve.
Who is it, please?
Jason Jones, motion to approve.
Thank
And
you,
this is
Jason.
Nancy. I'll second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded. We'll now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy is a yes.
Yes.
Trace Vincent,
Approve.
Tim Carpenter,
Approved.
Brent Stevenson,
Approved.
Pat Noon,
Approved.
Cody Sage,
Approved.
Baumgartner,
Approved.
Jason made the motion, and I approve. Staff, will you now confirm the record of the vote?
Yes, Jason Jones made the motion. Nancy Murray seconded the motion. The vote was unanimous to approve 9-0.
Thank you. Now we move on to regular agenda item D. Angela will give us the overview and the staff presentation.
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing. Will be held to consider application S 20-04 filed by Alan Mallory with Longview Christian School, requesting a specific use permit to allow for a private school in single-family 4 zoning district for approximately 12.716 acres of abstract 129 H McNutt Survey Tract 28 and abstract 262 A Jordan Survey Tract 17, Section 4, located at 1237 Pegues Place. The applicant is requesting a specific use permit in single-family 4 zoning district for a private school. Longview Christian School is located directly south of this request, and this property was recently donated to them. They would like to occupy the building as a private school and would like to build a soccer field as well. Both sites are previously home to Forest Park Middle School. Staff finds that the proposed zoning change is consistent with the surrounding uses. Staff recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions of Angela? Hearing none, is the applicant with us, and do you wish to add or speak to the request?
Frankie, I have a question of staff.
Thank you, Nancy. Go ahead.
Yes, wasn't this the old Pegues Place Elementary?
Forest Park.
Yes, it was Forest Park. It might have been Pegues Place, I guess, before, but it was Forest Park previously.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Any other questions? And we didn't hear anything from the applicant. So
The
we
applicant
will not
is
open.
unmuted now. He might have been able to speak previously.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. This is Alan Mallory, and I think everything's been covered. I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad you're with us, Mr. Mallory. Do the commissioners have any questions of the applicant? Any continuing questions? All right. If not,
This is Tracy. I got a question. Mr. Mallory, going from where the school is over to where the soccer field's possibly going to be, is there going to be sidewalks put in there for safety?
Our initial plan just candidly, I mean, the school's broke. The soccer field dirt work is being donated by a friend of mine that has a dirt company in the oil field, and he's just doing it as a favor. This soccer field where the kids can play soccer there on campus. So yeah, there's a long-term plan for that, but initially there's not. It's just going to be dirt work back behind this facility. There is a plan for a parking lot between the soccer field and the Geese Place that would be just west, which is just due east of the baseball field. But at this time we don't have the funds to do it, and so there won't be any sidewalk at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Angela, can you
Yes,
show
sir.
us where that parking is going to be? That he was just talking about?
I think the applicant is going to have to talk about where that parking lot is going to be. I believe he said it was going to be west of that building.
Okay.
That's correct. You're right there where the cursor's at. That's where our future parking lot, where we want it to be. But you know, it may be years before we can raise enough money to do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mallory. We appreciate your being with us.
Yes, ma'am.
With no further questions of the staff of the applicant, we will now open the public hearing. And anyone that would like to speak in support or opposition to this request is asked to do so now. Please give us your name and your address.
I don't see anyone that has raised their hand for any of the items. I don't see any hands raised. If you wish to speak, please do so, raise your hand. Being none, I think you can move forward.
Thank you. We will close the public hearing and we will entertain a motion in a second.
Tim
This is
Carpenter,
Pat Noonan.
approval.
Person that made the motion, who was that?
Tim Carpenter.
Pat Noonan was second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. We will now have a roll call vote. Dan Murray.
I approve.
Thank you, Tracy Vincent.
Approve.
Tim made the motion, so we'll give him a yes. Brent Stevenson.
Approved.
Pat Noon made the second. We'll give him a yes. Cody Sage.
I approve.
Thank you. Ryan Baumgardner.
Approve.
Yes, sir. Jason Jones.
Approve.
And I approve. Angela, you can give us the record of the vote, please.
Yes, ma'am. The motion was made by Tim Carpenter, seconded by Pat Noon. The vote was unanimous to approve, 9-0.
Thank you. Now we move to regular agenda item E, and Angela will give us the overview and the staff presentation.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Will be held to consider application PD 20-03 filed by F3 Property Investments LLC to amend Plan Development 10-08 to allow for an additional use of a barber or beauty shop for Lot 1, Block 1 of Spring Ridge Heights located at 1803 Eastwood Road. The applicant is requesting to amend PD 10-08 to allow for an additional use of a barber or beauty salon. The current plan development allows for office uses and a jewelry store. The building is 2,600 square feet with 17 parking spaces. If approved, a barber or beauty shop will be permitted by right within this plan development. All other stipulations and requirements that were stated in the plan development, the original plan development, will remain. Staff does find that the proposed zoning change is consistent with surrounding uses. Staff recommends approval of this request. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Angela, do we happen to know how many, what percentage of those parking spaces are being used on a daily basis by the existing tenant there?
I don't know, but I know that the tenant provided a sheet in your staff report. There's 5 lease spaces. 3 of the lease spaces are occupied by an insurance office, and then there's 2. I believe there's 2 vacant suites. And the hairdresser would like to go in suite 5. They are quite overparked for this for the building size. They're required 1 parking space for every 300 based on office. Now, 1 for every 200 for a beauty salon, but with those calculations, they far exceed our parking requirement.
Okay, what was 1 parking for every what for hair salon?
For a hair salon, it's 1 parking space for every 200 square feet of gross floor area, and then 1 to 300 for office. And so based on those calculations, they far exceed, the whole strip center far exceeds our parking requirement.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, were there any further questions of staff? Hearing none, is the applicant with us and they'd like to add or speak to this request?
Yes, ma'am. This is Pike Blakely. Yes, we actually bought this building and we weren't aware that it was a planned development at the time. Obviously, we found out that it was planned development, and some of the things that were supposed to be completed on the original construction, which was years before we bought it, were never completed. We went back and did those things, which most of it was going back and adding the plants and the trees and the dumpster, or they're actually not dumpsters, they're cans, the fence to hide the cans in. And so we've completed those things. Like I say, we didn't know those weren't done when we bought the building. And actually, we didn't know that it had a planned development. We were under the impression it was it's just own general commercial. But and so when we ran into this problem when we had a couple of people approach us about putting a beauty salon in, and so that's where we're at.
All right. Does anyone have any questions of the applicant? Hearing none, I will say it looks quite nice. Right, building, so you've done a good job with the DK.
Well, thank you.
Do any commissioners have any further questions of staff or the applicant? Hearing none, we now will open the hearing. This is where anyone that wants to speak in support or opposition to this request may speak. Please give us your name and address.
So far, no one has raised their hand. Looks like you can move forward.
Thank you. We have no one to speak in support of or in opposition. Therefore, we'll close the, and we'll entertain a motion. Second.
Frankie, this is Tracy. I make a motion we accept.
Thank you.
Brent Stevenson, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. And we'll now have a roll call vote. Nancy Free?
I approve.
Thank you. Tracy Vincent is a yes. He made the motion. Tim Carpenter? Tim Carpenter?
Approved.
Thank you. Brent seconded, so he's a yes. Pat Noon?
Yes.
Cody Sage?
Approved.
Ryan Baumgartner?
Approved.
Jason Jones?
Approved.
And I approve. Angela, would you please give us the record of the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Tracy Vincent made the motion. Brent Stevenson seconded the motion. The vote was unanimous to approve, 9-0.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item F. Angela, would you please give us the overview and the staff report?
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing will be held to consider PD 20-04, filed by HEK Investments LLC to rezone approximately 5.547 acres of abstract 177 WM Robinson Survey Tract 30, Section 3, from general retail and single family 4 to plan development to allow for a tunnel car wash located at 3470 Gilmer Road. The applicant is requesting this rezone from general retail and single family to plan development to allow for a tunnel car wash. Currently, a church is located on this site, and the applicant proposes to demolish the existing building. The properties to the north and west of the subject property are zoned heavy commercial. A tunnel car wash is an appropriate use for this area. However, they are allowed in heavy commercial zoning districts. Rezoning this property to heavy commercial could lead to unintended uses that may not be appropriate for this area. Therefore, a planned development is the best option. It protects the neighborhood by limiting the uses allowed on this property and provides additional features such as the green belt that was shown on the site plan. The site plan for this planned development proposes a setback of this site that is consistent with general retail zoning district with a 25-foot front setback, 10-foot side setback, and on the rear there's a green belt that's 300 foot wide or 300 foot deep, 196 wide in the rear that's directly adjacent to this residential. The green belt indicated on the site plan will be a preservation area with trees that will be undisturbed. The signage for this area will follow the sign allowance in general retail zoning districts, and all other city codes and regulations will be met through the development process. Gilmer Road is a tech stop roadway and a principal arterial. This use is appropriate for this area as long as access management is followed. Staff finds the proposed zoning change is consistent with surrounding uses. Staff does recommend approval of the request. I just want to let y'all know staff did receive a petition on this request, and it was signed by over 20% of the notified properties surrounding this request. This item must be approved by a supermajority vote by City Council. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Are there any questions for Angela? Thank you, Angela. Is the applicant present, and would you like to add or speak to the request?
All I'd like to say is the picture that you're on right now, for any of the residents that are behind that green belt that you see there behind the existing building will remain intact. We're fully aware of any concerns from any residents, and I live in Longview, Texas, and we plan to keep all of that intact and to preserve that for the residents that exist behind there. Other than that, you guys covered it.
I'm having a hard time understanding you, but what is your name?
Brian Hatchett.
Okay, Brian. And what is your address, please?
1321 Yates Drive, Longview,
Okay,
Texas.
thank you. All right, thank you. And would you restate what you just said a little slower?
I'm sorry, if you'll go back to the picture you were showing previously of the green belt you see behind the existing building will remain intact. We're fully aware of any concerns for residents that are behind us. That's why through this process of planning and zoning, that green belt will be maintained to keep a buffer between any homes and the business. Other than that, I think you guys covered everything.
Okay, thank you for that addition. Does the commission have any questions for the staff or the applicant on this item?
Frank, this is Tracy Vincent. One of my questions is there going to be required privacy fence on the backside of the green area?
No, sir. The green belt is very solid. You cannot see through that green belt. Now, if there are areas that you can see through, yes, then we would require buffering. But
And then,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. And then my B part of that question was, is that floodplain that's going down through there like a creek or something such as that?
There is a low-lying area, and I believe there's a creek. I don't believe there may be a little bit of floodplain. Yes, along that back area.
And the developer would have to be required to have the water handled correctly going down through there, going over to the southeast.
So through the development process, our city engineer will look at drainage at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional questions of staff or the applicant? Hearing none, we
Mr.
will
Hatchett,
now- Go ahead.
Mr. Hatchett, is tunnel wash service taxable in Texas?
Is the service taxable? No, sir.
So whatever you pay there's not a sales tax generated?
No, this would be property tax.
No, what I mean, what you,
There's no sales tax on the sale. No, sir.
on the wash service?
No, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Bryan, if you don't mind me asking, how many of these do you guys have?
We currently own 4 of these. One of them's in Longview.
So this is not your first rodeo?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Where is the other one in Longview?
3913 West Marshall Avenue.
Thank you. Is that the one, West Marshall, next to Sonic out by the loop,
Yes, ma'am.
where the loop circles around? Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? Hearing none, we will now open the public hearing. This is the opportunity for anyone that wants to speak in support or opposition to this request. Please give your name and address and to speak your thoughts.
We do have a couple of people who wish to speak on this item. There's a Troy Myers and a Ryan Lewis. Troy Myers, his audio pin has not been entered. I've sent that to him. Hopefully he should be able to do that. If not, he has sent in his comments in a written format, but we'll give him a chance to get online. So we're going to go to Ryan Lewis first. Ryan, I am unmuting you now. You will need to unmute yourself as well. Ryan Lewis.
All right, can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you. Ryan Lewis here. I've owned and operated an auto spot car wash at 3519 Gilmer Road for more than 22 years. As you've discussed, this is a hearing to consider allowing a car wash to be built across the street from me at 3470 Gilmer Road. HEK Investments has cherry-picked this single-family and general retail location and requesting this rezone to build a third car wash in a 3-block span of Gilmer Road. We should all respect the public hearing process as it gives the interested parties with the adjoining properties a voice in the matter that can change lives dramatically. A petition to deny this application has been signed by 13 of the 17 notified property owners and should send a clear message to each of you involved in this process tonight. Before you cast your vote tonight, I simply ask you to vote with your conscience. Ask yourself if this public hearing is being conducted because it's simply a required part of the process, or do you as members of the P&Z Commission actually hear the people's input? And if so, your conscience will lead you to vote for denial of this application tonight. Thank you.
We do still have one other person that wanted to speak, and that was Troy Myers. Unfortunately, it does not look like his audio is working correctly at this time. Let me add this, though, that he has sent in these in a written format through the chat. Said his concerns are noise, water runoff into the creek, drainage, wildlife, and sewer. He also would like to know what will guarantee that the applicant will keep the green belt. Beyond that, I do not see any others that have raised their hand to speak during the item.
Thank you. Staff and commissioners, any questions, comments at this point?
Yeah, this is Jason Jones. I've got a quick comment. I got to visit with Mr. Lewis, and I'm empathetic to the situation. You know, I can only imagine having a business and someone going in across the street. That being said, just like I told him, that's capitalism, and I hate that land was empty and that there was a belief that it can never be built on, but that's the way it works. I mean, that's the way capitalism works, and I hate seeing that, and I hate seeing it affect the business, and maybe he'll end up doing as good as the 50-cent car wash down the street that's still alive and kicking across from Brookshire's that's been there for 40 plus years. I don't know. I think he could reinvent himself and maybe get a bigger percent than he's getting now. But I really thought about this of what would lead someone to not vote for it. I don't even know what leg you'd stand on. It's just straight up capitalism. I don't know.
Frankie, this is Sean Hara. The other person who's wanting to speak, it looks like they got their audio figured out now. That's Mr. Troy Myers. If we could recognize him at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yes, we can. Give us your address.
11 Spring Valley Circle. And I went by the person that's wanting to build this car wash. I went by their location over off of Highway 80 this morning to listen when the fans come on to drive the vehicles. And one of my concerns, and they say they're going to leave the green zone, but we can hear traffic in the wintertime because the trees get thin. The other part of that is, like my neighbors, which all signed the petition, would like to sit out in their backyard and maybe listen to their TV and watch a football game or listen to music. And most of these car washes play music outside quite loud. So that's a concern of mine. I did a little checking, and I have over 20 car washes, not all the same style, but most of them are drive-through like he's proposing, within a 5-mile range, which made me concerned. You know, we got this many already. Another issue that came to mind when I was looking at this property, that was a church behind us, and with that, we could figure that it was going to stay much the same. And we're sitting on the original Spring Hill. This location is on the hill that they named this community after. That creek back there runs clear water, and I'm concerned about all this washing, all that water, and all that trash ended up in the creek. And you got to consider how much utilities it's going to take for them to be able to handle that much water and soap and grease and grime and all out of there, which is considerable. Something y'all haven't really thought about, and I have, because I watch it. We have all this wildlife that lives in these woods right behind us. I have seen deer. I have seen fox. There's hawks that nest in those trees that they're talking about. I'm concerned about what it's going to do to the wildlife. I mean, there's many things why I would not want this car wash there, but what was so attractive is that we could go out and sit on our back porch and have quiet and the luxury of looking at trees instead of businesses and lives. Now, that may sound a bit selfish, and it is, but on the flip side, I've used both those car washes across the road. And one of those car washes I stopped at today, the one that Mr. Lewis owns, and I saw a local contractor that I know from business there going through to get his truck washed. Why did he go there? Because he wanted to, and it was convenient, and he likes Mr. Lewis. So he uses his car wash. Now, I know I'm just giving reasons, selfish reasons, but to me and my neighbors that I've talked to, we're concerned about the noise. We're concerned about what it's going to be in the future. Yes, this person that wants to build it may sell it, and who says what they'll do in the future? You rezone the whole area, and that can all change. Well, I do appreciate y'all at least letting me have my say. It would have been much easier if I could have seen you face to face. And thank you for allowing me this moment to express my concerns. I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers, and thank you, Mr. Lewis, both for your comments. Do we have any additional?
It does not appear that we have anyone else.
Does the staff or the commissioners have any questions of?
This is Tracy. Got a question in relation to the green zone. Is in the motion, if we move forward, can the green zone itself be protected through the motion?
So this is a plan development, and so the green zone is part of this plan development request. I mean, even if you make the motion, that is the site plan that they have to follow. They have to abide by that green zone. They cannot touch that green zone. Also, just to clarify, I know Mr. Myers was worried about the use. This plan development is only for a car wash. If the car wash were to never happen and they sell it to somebody else for a different use, they're going to have to come back through this process.
Okay.
Any other commissioners?
Is Mr. Hatchett still on the line?
Yes, sir.
I heard something in one of the comments I want to make sure I absolutely understand. Where does your wastewater go?
Our tunnel washes are designed with virtually 100% catchment, which means all of the water will stay contained inside of the tunnel. And before it passes into city storm sewer, directly into city sewer, it goes through multiple sand and grease traps to turn it into what would be similar gray water that you see in any other circumstance. So there won't be a runoff that will go down towards any type of flooding or anything else.
Okay. That was my first question. My second question is that you would be buying water from the city?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This is Tracy again. Question is, in a situation which I've gone to a lot of car washes and look, most of them are very clean and very well taken care of. But in a situation like years ago when we had Walmart coming up on Gilmer Road, there was plastic bags flying over and things like that and so forth going into people's pools and stuff. With the green zone, that's going to protect that. But from the standpoint of those things getting into the green zone, should there be a privacy fence that goes along that green zone to protect the trees and the environment?
We're not going to require a fence. Now, if there is trash there, I mean, you know, the neighbors, if they're getting trash in their backyard, they can call us. We will call Mr. Hatchett to have them clean out that green zone area. And from time to time, we get those calls. From time to time, we do get those calls.
Angela, I've got a question. This is Nancy. What sort of ordinance do we have as a city regarding sound on these type facilities?
So within the zoning ordinance, it just says if If it impacts the adjacent neighbors, the neighbors have the right to contact the police department. And so it's very vague. I mean, that is pretty much exactly what it says. If it impacts the adjacent neighbors, the neighbors have the right to contact them.
Any other comments?
Mr. Hatchett wanted to add another.
I just wanted to add on the sound that, first of all, there won't be any music that's turned up loud. It's a come and go car wash. We don't put a lot of speakers out there. We're not looking to have any kind of party at the vacuums. We run a 2-ton air conditioning, and the dryers themselves and the vacuums are really no louder than, say, the convenience store next door and the 5-ton air conditioning that sits on their roof, or the compressors that run their coolers if you were to stand directly by them. Most of our noise that would come from the car wash that would only be at that level is all the way to the Gilmer Road side. It's not back towards the residential. So the dryers referred to earlier by the gentleman, those will all be at the Gilmer Road side of the development. The vacuums themselves are no louder than a standard vacuum that you use to vacuum out your car at home.
Any additional comments, sir?
And as far as noise, we're only a 12-hour business. We don't open until 7 to 8 in the morning, and we close before 7 or 8 at night. So unlike anything else that might be developed there in the future, if we weren't to develop, we will be closed after that time.
Are those 7 days a week? Are those hours 7 days a week?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm giving you plenty of time. Any additional thoughts or questions, comments? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. And I will entertain a motion and a second. Second call for a motion for agenda item F.
Move to approve.
And that is
Tracy,
Tim.
I'll second. That was Tim.
We have a motion and a second. We will now conduct a roll call vote. Nancy Murray,
I approve.
Tracy is a yes because he seconded. Tim Carpenter made the motion. He's a yes. Brent Stevenson. Brent, are you with us? We'll come back to Brent. Pat Noon?
Yes.
Pat Noon? All right, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Cody Sage?
Approve.
Brian Baumgartner?
Approve.
Jason Jones?
Approve.
Brent Stevenson?
Approved.
And I have an issue with the quality of life, and I'm going to just disapprove. So we will ask staff to confirm the record of the vote.
Yes, ma'am. The motion was made by Tim Carpenter, seconded by Tracy Vincent. The vote was 8-1 to approve.
Thank you. Is there any further business conducted? I want to thank everyone for your attendance and particularly for your participation. And please know that it is possible, though we'd like to see all of you face to face, that our next few Planning and Zoning Commission meetings will need to be conducted by a teleconference like this one. We are adjourned.